So, all right, so I am recording now. So I will go ahead and give it to you, Cara. If you want to go ahead and take it from here, let me know if you need anything at all. And we are super, super excited and happy to have you. I know I've heard about this presentation and things you've been doing like this for a very long time. And I personally have been at many conferences with you, but I don't think I've ever been able to be at a session of yours. So I'm super excited. So thank you.
Very lofty expectations there, Carrie, but I appreciate it.
It's the truth. It is what it is. That's all I'm doing.
All right, let me see if I can share the screen here.
All righty.
Sorry, just making sure I'm sharing the right screen. That's always a struggle, right? Can you see presentation?
Yes.
Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, so I love how like when you share, then you have all the, okay, all right, here we go, we're cooking. So I do have everything already shared for you tonight in resources. I'm a big proponent of sharing resources because a lot of times you might want to dig in a little bit deeper or get some more information. So I've put everything in a Dropbox there for you so you can access that by either scanning QR code or going to go.osu.edu/engage-mystery. And bonus tip, I love showing people how to do easy live closed captioning during presentations too. So if you're interested in that, you can find that out there. So as Carrie talked about a little bit earlier, I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about the disappearance of learner engagement. I don't know about you all, but I do think it's a huge issue, especially as we're doing things more virtually. It's very kind of hard to read your audience, right? So we're going to be talking a little bit about that, but I do have a confession to make. I'm not a detective and I'm not really good at solving mysteries. I was actually the kid that could never find an Easter egg as a child. So I had to call in a little bit of help, and I hope you all don't mind. I mean, I don't know about you. I have to rely on a lot of people a lot of times. So we're actually going to work tonight together in teams, and we're going to try to figure out where the learner engagement has went. So I hope you're okay, but I have asked this gentleman here, Sherlock Knowles, to help us tonight. So welcome. He is here from the great beyond, and the great thing is we can all talk to him. It's so cool. It's like all this virtual stuff. You can talk to people virtually. So he's going to help us out tonight trying to figure out what's going on. So it looks like he's also very glad to meet everybody. And let me just make sure. I'm also going to try to watch the chat. Malcolm's him. He could be. So never know. Maybe we can ask him a little bit later on. All right. So as you can imagine, he is an expert at solving mysteries. Does this sound a little bit familiar? Working with experts to get the job done, maybe. So anyway, he's an expert at mysteries, but he is willing to work with us because he realizes that this mystery, it's complex because there's a lot of factors that obviously go into learner engagement. So he's going to be relying on us to kind of give that technology piece as well. And he does kind of like mysteries, but again, this isn't his jam, but he's still going to be working with us. So what do you all say? Are you willing to work with him tonight? So let me know in the chat if you're willing to get on and let's solve this mystery. So I got Maria says yes. Any other yeses? Yes, you bet. Oh, I like the you bet and oh yes. That makes me really happy. All right, awesome. So he's very gracious for your help, and Scotty doesn't get out of the house very often, so you just have to watch him. You know, he might have a little conjecture here or there throughout. Okay, so it wouldn't be a mystery without clues. Oh, I'm so sorry. Can somebody please, would you be kind enough to mute your mic? I hear a little bit of interference coming in. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I got it.
Oh, you're fine. So it wouldn't be a mystery without clues. So from this point forward, there's going to be 4 clues hidden throughout this presentation. I have the chat now open on another screen here so I can see what's going on. So if you see something, say something. So if you see something that looks a little bit maybe out of the ordinary, just pop it in chat and then we'll see if it's clues. And the clues are really critical because if we get the clues, you might be able to guess where the learner engagement went. All right, so again, if you see something, say something. Sounds good? So everybody, if you put your detective's hats on, be looking really closely and see if we can figure things out. But again, we haven't worked with him before. He hasn't worked with us before. So he's been kind enough. He's going to give us some help tonight. And we have some different sidekicks. So this might be, depending on where you're at, I think a lot of you are East Coast like I am. Maybe you had dinner. Maybe you're like me, you haven't had dinner. This might be the toughest decision today minus dinner, okay? So we're actually going to communicate via if you have a phone, or actually if you don't want to do that too, if you want to pop in the chat, either or, I'm fine. I just want to give you multiple ways to communicate with Detective Knowles. So you have a decision to make here. So you're going to have 3 options here of people you can select to work with tonight. So you could be Rufus the cat, who has a cunning bonus. And I'm not sure what the bonuses mean, so you just might have to figure that out on your own. Tracy, who has a speed bonus, and Coco the monkey, who has a security bonus. So go ahead, look at their attributes, think about it, and you don't have to tell me who it is yet, because remember, we have to communicate to Detective Knowles. But when you're ready to make a decision, just let me know I'm ready in the chat. So Rufus, Tracy, or Coco. All right. Jennifer's ready. Oh, Jennifer Brick, hey, good to see you. Maria's ready, Diana's ready, Jen's ready, Dr. Lori's ready. Okay, all right, we're ready. Okay, so if you have your device ready, we're going to communicate to Detective Knowles which person you want to work with. And so we're going to use Poll Everywhere. And hopefully, there we go. It's going to be active here. So A for Rufus, B for Tracy, C for Coco. If you want to, again, tell Detective Knowles who you want to work with, you can either go to the URL pollev.com/cnorth, or you can text cnorth to 37607, and then it will pop you back one, and then you choose A, B, or C. So this is always a fun part, because I love to see who people pick, because a lot of people like really analyze this, like, this really could make or break my night, which one I pick, right? So yeah, Rufus is always a crowd favorite. I don't know why. I mean, I think Rufus is cool too, but all right, so we got him coming in here, and yeah, Marina, that's perfectly fine. So Marina is also going to be Team Rufus here. Got a nice split between Rufus, Coco. Okay, here we go. Okay, and then Cheyenne wants to be Coco. Hey, Cheyenne, nice to see you too. All right. All right, again, Rufus is always just the popular one. You all really need to be careful about him. He's a little tricky. So I've heard. All right, Coco. All right, has everybody who wants to tell Detective Knowles or share in the chat pick their sidekick? Let me know if you have. Okay, no worries, Dr. Lori. Take your time. This is really important. Nobody's left behind, because you got to have a sidekick. We're not going to figure this out if you don't pick your sidekick. Just saying. How many of you are like, what in the heck did I sign up for tonight? Anybody having regrets yet? All right. All right, Dr. Lurie, did you get your sidekick picked? Oh, engaging, you say. You don't say. Well, that's nice. Thank you. Oh, no worries. If you want, again, you can also put in the chat, you know, which one you want to pick, Rufus, Tracy, or Coco. So, yeah. Tracy, perfect. All right. Moving on, and don't forget who you picked, and you can't cheat, all right, because Detective Knowles has a record of it. All right. So we're back in. So now that we've got our sidekick, we've met Detective Knowles, let's hop in and let's figure out kind of what's going on here, shall we? All right. So let's take a look at the person that needs our help. All right. Look at him. How many of you all felt that way in a training? Let me know in the chat. Has anybody ever felt that way in a training? Aw, pleasant slumber, right? Those good old next buttons and everything. Oh, well, thank you, Marina. Maria, that's really nice. Not today. Dr. Lori says, I'll just leave. If only. Some of us are kind of chained to those seats, and we can't leave sometimes. But I don't know about you all, but I know I have certainly felt this way, and I like to tell this story because it's not mine, but I have a podcast with my friend Joe Suarez, and one of my favorite stories he's ever told me is the first time he built his first e-learning, right, at this company. He was so proud of it. And I remember my first training, I'm sure all of us do, right? He was so proud of it. He wanted to kind of take this victory lap around the center that he was working at. And he saw someone asleep in front of his module. I mean, talk about a wake-up call, right? So if we know this happens, why does it continue to happen? So we're going to talk a little bit about why this happens and maybe some things that could prevent it. Whoa, wait a second. What is this? So sorry. This is really embarrassing. I hate when this happens. Oh my gosh. Hang tight here. So sorry. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Silly tech issues. I'm so sorry. Oh. Wasn't a tech issue. Hold up. That's interesting. Who's this? This is Borson Wells, and he is definitely up on technology. Okay, all right. He's great at developing content-rich PowerPoints. Content-rich. Maybe. Tell you what, how about we see what you're working with? Do you all want to see one of his examples? If you want to see what he's got, Dr. Lori's like, he sounds kind of boring. Maria's down. All right, Maria's a brave soul. We're going to go with her. Hey, Borson, let's see what you're working with here. Oh. How many of you have seen stuff like that in training? Let me know in the chat. Yeah, it seems like a lot of you have seen it. Yeah. And again, it happens a lot of times when you're working with that person that knows a lot about the content, right? Definitely very passionate, but this is what a lot of times it comes up with. So yeah, that's really something. Yeah. Yeah, it's very evident, Borson. You like talking about chili. We really appreciate that sentiment. Oh, he says it's all about those 21st century skills. Well, newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first tonight. You do know we've been in the 21st century for 20 years, right? Yeah, 20 years now, we have been in the 21st century. Yeah. It's just a big pet peeve of mine. And when people say 21st century skills, I'm just like, yeah, we're here. Yep. What's next, right? Jennifer's like, what? No, I can't believe it. So, yeah, a lot of these kind of skills, these training, they're always talking about kind of 21st century skills, whatever. But even though we talk about it, we don't practice what we preach a lot of times, right? So let's talk a little bit about kind of, again, what we can do. You know, we know that this is not good. I mean, the chat has been loud and clear. We know that that's not the way it should be, but yet it happens every day. And we've even said that it happens every day. We've seen it. We've seen that death by PowerPoint, whatever. So let's talk a little bit about kind of what we can do to fix it. So why don't we start with the question, what is learner engagement anyway? So what do you all think learner engagement is? And we're going to do this by talking just a quick little poll here. So this will load here. And again, if you don't have a phone or anything by you, that's fine too. But just let me know which one of these you think is learner engagement. If you were just to guess what you think that it would be. So you have an option, the view that people learn by observing others, the preferential way in which a student absorbs, processes, comprehends, and retains information, the measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of data about learners and their context, or the definition varies from scholar to scholar. What do you all think? So got a couple for B in the chat. Dr. Lori says D. What do you all think? Learner engagement. D. All right, Chris says D. All right. Well, spoiler alert, the answer is D. If you were to go do just a search on Google or in any various journals or research, they're going to have learner engagement defined in multiple ways and for multiple reasons. So first of all, a lot of times it depends on the population. Are you dealing with K through 12 students? Are you talking about higher ed students? Are you talking about adults? And it also kind of, I think, matters about kind of the way that it's operationalized. So is it in a work setting? Is it in an academic setting? Is it a formal education, informal education? And what's kind of the mediums being used? So it does vary from scholar to scholar, but good news is we're going to try to figure this out and unpack it. And luckily for us, on the way to us virtually, that Detective Knowles, he found this learner engagement notebook. And this notebook's going to guide us through some of these different concepts tonight. So according to kind of, again, there's a ton of ways that this can be sliced. If you look at it beyond the definition and look at kind of what are the constructs of just engagement, there's kind of 3 buckets, and we're going to spend time talking about these 3 buckets. So the first bucket is behavioral engagement. So again, what is it that someone is doing? Like, how are they demonstrating engagement? We're going to be talking a little bit about that. Next is cognitive engagement. So how do they interact with whatever it is that you're doing? How are they processing it? What are they thinking about? And then finally, one that does not get enough attention, but I'm on my soapbox hoping it gets more attention finally, is emotional engagement. I don't care how excited you are about a training you're building or what's going on. If it is a horrible time for that person to take it, it doesn't matter. It's not going to stick. That person could have a horrible fight with their partner before they come to work. That person could be worried about, you know, I feel like our world is currently on fire. You know, there's a lot of things going on that we don't think about that person at the end of the screen. So I want to talk a lot about the emotional engagement too. And if you're interested in like reading more about this, I put the research article in that Dropbox. Dr. Shea is actually my advisor at Ohio State, so he always loves when I quote him on stuff. But legit, I do think that he did a nice job of kind of explaining this out. Okay, so if you're one of those people that need kind of a definition to think about things, and I completely get it, I really like this definition of like behavioral engagement because it focuses kind of on the process with the behavior as well as kind of these different subscales, meaning, again, beyond just what we do, how do we interact with it? Are we sharing it with people? Is it something that we individually process or are we socially processing it? And is it something that is like making it challenging for us, or what does that look like? So I really like that definition. I really like sharing it. And if you're a theory person, you're thinking about like, what does this align to in like learning theories? You think about this as like kind of constructivism. So constructivism is kind of like these little pieces of how we learn different things. And I like to think of it as a puzzle or a filing cabinet of when we pick things up and we learn, we kind of store them away, and then we kind of like put it in our schema, and then we build on top of it. And you know, that's kind of how we build kind of our knowledge, and that's how we put boundaries on what we learn and know. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Lori. I appreciate that. I try to put a little bit of theory in there because, you know, especially if you all are formally trained in this, you hear a lot about the theory, but then after you get out and you work, you don't hear enough about it anymore. It's like it just disappears, and I'm just trying to like, you know, scaffold and put the crosswalk those two together. All right, and if you're just kind of like, I wonder what this looks like as far as engagement, here's a study, and I just did a snapshot of this from Lane and Harris. And again, this full study is also in that Dropbox for you if you want to dive into it. But just look at this. So this is like, you know, just imagine a training, a classroom, whatever. And when people are lecturing, look how low that student engagement is. But then whenever they have like it's old, it's got clickers, right? It's like, I didn't know clickers were still a thing. Questioning, examples, look at the engagement, because guess what? They're doing something. Crazy, right? Again, we know this, but yet time and time and time again, trainings don't have any of this in it. It's very much sage on the stage versus guide on the side. It's very much, look at me, this is the traditional way of learning, listen to everything I say, and then go out and do it, right? So, you know, I just like to put that out there, that I think it's really important to kind of, you know, slice it up. And how many of you have seen this to start something? Let me know if you've had an e-learning and this is how your e-learning starts. Have you seen anything like this before? Let me know in the chat. So e-learning starting with these awesome learning objectives. Yes. Oh, Carrie says that she remembers when people were all excited. I love it. Yeah, so you all have seen this. So just so, oh, go ahead.
The clicker thing, that was people all excited just in the last few months on it, and a chat group talking about how clickers were so amazing, like they just learned about them. So
oh, that's awesome. Very cool. All right, so it looks like all of you have seen this, right? So just a news flash, all this does is this just screams that this is going to cure insomnia for your learner, right? Because you have a very small window when you kick something off to hook somebody in and get their attention and engagement. And this ultimately, I do not know anyone, and I am a learning geek, ladies and gents. I eat, breathe, sleep this stuff. I glaze over this. And I love this stuff, but this is just like, I don't care, right? So I just, again, another little sidebar there. Okay, and I think it's also really important to kind of, again, put a scale around this. So I have like these like 3 little pillars. I'm going to go through this in each one of these. But in case you're just wondering, like, what does it look like to be engaged versus not engaged? Here are some examples. So engaged is somebody that, you know, participates with like enthusiasm. So you all, I mean, several of you in the chat are just like on fire, and I appreciate it. So you've been giving me a lot of engagement there. And then, you know, obviously not engaged, they're not really responding, they're not really wanting to be part of it. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry. And then of course our apathetic cat there, who is so adorable, by the way, you know, kind of in the middle. But I know what you all are thinking. But we're virtual now, right? So I'm not doing instructor led. I'm not seeing people. How on earth do I know if they're engaged? So let's say, for example, you see somebody like this. What are some things that you would say this person is feeling in the chat? So if you saw somebody sitting in front of you that had like this kind of expression, what are some of the things that you may think that they're going through? So let me know. Hopefully they're not surrounded by cardboard boxes like that, but I just picked it because, again, it had maybe headache, stress, bored, exhausted, overwhelmed, resigned, tired, done, distressed, packing. My favorite answer that I've gotten on this was hungover, but yeah, absolutely, Chris. Something major going on outside their life, on the edge to cry, sad that they spent too much on Amazon. Maybe. I mean, I'm pro Amazon, so, you know, I mean, on the edge to cry, yeah. But again, my point is, again, right on the money, right? You all can just tell that that person is, 1, not engaged, and 2, might have other factors going on with what's going on. So my question is, in a virtual setting, besides, again, I can see Carrie, and I can see other people. If somebody's like not on camera, if it's like an e-learning, if it's something like that, how do you know if they're engaged? Well, I don't have all the answers, but again, I have a good resource. So I have a friend, and her name is Jo Cook, and she is in the UK, and she talks about this concept of digital body language. And digital body language is essentially just kind of like your footprint, if you will, of how you interact with material online. So some of this digital body language can be pulled from analytics in your learning management system of, you know, clicks. I definitely think XAPI could probably do better than SCORM on this, but it's basically just kind of a concept of if they're interacting, have they went back, have they shared things, have they went to different pages. So it's kind of like this concept. If you're interested in learning more about this, I linked in the box to her website and a nice article she wrote about it. But digital body language actually comes from marketing. Marketing people have known for years what makes people tick as far as their behavior and how they decide what to purchase and, you know, how they interact with stuff online. So Jo did a really nice job of kind of taking some of those concepts and putting it kind of into the learning space for us. So again, definitely not the expert. I believe in elevating and giving credit to the experts in the field. Jo Cook, she's the girl for digital body language. So if you don't know her or haven't heard of her, definitely look her up or read about it. She's got all kinds of great resources on it. Okay, So we've talked a little bit about that behavioral stuff. Maybe it was, behavioral, but we don't know. So let's hop in a little bit and let's talk about these other two perspectives. All right, so again, I would just like to give a definition. I think it's a nice baseline to kind of get people thinking about it. So let's talk a little bit about cognitive engagement. And so this one specifically, the reason I like this definition, it talks about intentionality, right? So you're not just kind of, again, going through the motions, which we'll talk about here in a moment, but you kind of have this intentionality and strategy about how you're doing things and making kind of this effort. So, that kind of sweat equity, that grit around doing something, right? So if you're cognitively engaged, like you're thinking about it, you're internalizing it, you're thinking about like, what does this mean for me? And this is also very hard to do because people, believe it or not, are weird and complex, right? So something that might be super engaging to you might not be super engaging to someone else. I've spent way too much time in the last 3 months playing Animal Crossing. My husband is sick of hearing about it, but I can't get enough of it. And, he would not be cognitively engaged listening or having me talk about me trying to grow a blue rose in Animal Crossing, but, he's more into Apex Legends, and I hate that game. So it just depends on kind of the flavor of the month of like what people are interested in as far as what they might want to cognitively engage with. Now, I talked a little bit about this a moment ago, but the nice thing about cognitive engagement, it kind of breaks it down into like procedural and substantial. And so procedural is like going through the motions. So think about, after you've been driving for a while, you just kick on autopilot and then you just sail on to wherever you want to go. It's going through the motions. That's not necessarily what we want people to do, especially in various settings. I mean, that could definitely be dangerous to people maybe in manufacturing or various things that, they could potentially like lose their life or do bodily harm to someone else. We don't necessarily want that to happen. But then like for substantial engagement, they interact in a thoughtful manner. So a great example of this that I recently saw was I, ventured out to the grocery store in the middle of all of this, and I saw this really nice little checklist over one of the cashiers, the cash register of, after each customer goes through, stop, wipe, and it had something else on there. But again, to remind them to thoughtfully go through, because it's very easy when you have a line of people, there's different rushes in a grocery store, just that little thoughtfulness of, I need to stop what I'm doing, I need to wipe things down, make sure things are clean and safe for other people. Okay, and again, going back into the theory here, if you're interested in this screams self-determination theory. So self-determination theory, I think Deci and Ryan were the folks that kind of coined it, and it's kind of got these three kind of constructs, but there's way more constructs to self-determination theory. But basically autonomy is, does somebody kind of have like choice in it? Can they kind of dive in at their own pace? Are they able to kind of, again, have a little bit of choice or autonomy about what it is that they're continuing to learn? Competence, how's that measured? Is this something that you have a baseline in? So when they are cognitively engaging with something, what's the cutoff score? What does good look like? I mean, that's a very tough question in a lot of the stuff that we build, right? Because you talk to a subject matter expert, I don't know about the ones you all work with, but the ones I work with, like, we want it all, give it all. And I'm like, no, we can't give it all. Like, we need to have little, spaces of it. And then the third is relatedness. So is this something that is just like nice to know? Is this something that's critical to know? And how does that, again, engage, and how's that kind of process with what I already know as a person? So those are some things you might want to consider as you're building stuff out. Now I'm just going to leave this here. So think about this for a moment. In 2015, 70% of Americans reported job dissatisfaction. Yeah. Yet most would rather work than take your e-learning or attend your training class. And I've been guilty of it too. I mean, I've had, compliance courses that's been added to my transcript in the LMS, and I wait to the absolute last day. And I'm a training and development person. I love this stuff. Why is that? Yeah, exactly, Jennifer. And I think that's part of the problem. There's been a lot of bad examples out there. For the longest time, before COVID hit, my husband would say, oh yeah, my wife makes those e-learnings. And people will be like, oh my gosh, somebody actually makes those. And then, but now I feel like after COVID, I feel like this is our time in the sun. I feel like people actually know what we do for a living now. And it's kind of exciting. I mean, I think there's a lot of great opportunity to grow, but I mean, we really have a responsibility to elevate our profession. And just like Jennifer said, and I agree, there's a lot of bad examples out there, but good news is we can fix it. I mean, we can be the change that inspires the L&D world, right? Hopefully. All right, so again, going back to the scale, I'm just trying to, again, situate it here. So, cognitive engagement, again, they're meeting or exceeding kind of what you're doing with it. Apathetic, they may turn something in, they may finish, they may not, and then you're not engaged, they're not having it at all. They're the ones that's arguing with their boss. Why do I have to go to that blasted training? Why do I have to take that e-learning? I don't have to do it, right? Okay. All right, and then emotional. This one, again, I don't feel like gets enough support because we think about our people as kind of outputs a lot of times. Oh, we need to just give them their training, and then we are so busy a lot of times as L&D professionals. We have 3 or 4 other campaigns that we're building and managing, and a lot of times timing's a big issue with building out engagement from an emotional side. I know, like when I worked at Amazon, I was in the customer service center, and we would have folks actually scheduled out of production to take the training. And, they could have got cussed out before they took the training. They could be dealing with other stressors. I mean, there's all these factors, and how on earth are we supposed to expect a human being to just shut everything off and just hyper-focus on everything that we do? And I think it's really selfish for us to assume that everybody's going to have their undivided attention the entire time of our wonderful, fabulous e-learning or learning experience, right? So really giving people opportunities to think about or have, again, autonomy, maybe have, shocker, sense of humor if we can, right? So, I mean, things we can do to make it less painful on people, I think we should consider it. All right, and then again, your scale of emotional engagement here, very cut and dry: interest, boredom, rejection. All right, so if you're looking for a wrap-up, here's kind of, what you might want to think about as far as engagement goes. So behavioral, what are they doing? Cognitive, how are they being challenged? And emotional, how does it make them feel? I mean, is this, a bright spot of their day? I'd love that. I mean, I think we all would. We would all absolutely love if what we did brightened somebody's day. I know I would. So yeah, all right. Okay, so now we've explored the 3 different perspectives. The detective thinks he knows what's going on. Interesting. All right, so here we go. You know what, Detective Knowles? I've been watching the chat. I didn't see anybody say anything about any clues. Wah, wah, wah. So question, let me know in the chat, do you want me to go back and show you the clues, or you want to be surprised at the end? So just let me know what you want, and I will happily accommodate. Yeah, Carrie, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, we were looking for clues for what were the clues, like when we first saw the one thing and he was holding something behind his back, but I was like, no, that's not the kind of clue. So what were the clues again?
It looks like people want to be surprised.
Okay, we'll find out.
You'll find out. Yeah, we'll find out. Okay. All right, so can I get a drum roll, please? Oh, Maria, eagle eye. I saw a finger pointed up, and in the corner, I didn't notice it earlier enough. You know what? I'm feeling very kind. So let's go back, and I'll give you all that clue because you did say that. So let's go back. Let's see. Is it a clue? It is. All right. So the clue is a picture of a pointing hand. Well, I don't know if that's going to help you all or not, but it might. So good job, Maria. So you do have one clue, a picture of a pointing hand. All right. Okay. So Borson's wanting to know what's going on. Any guesses in the chat before I reveal where the learner engagement went? So feel free. Thank you, Maria. Maria said it helped with her emotional engagement. Love it. So any guesses why this person is checked out? Any guesses at all? Let me know in the chat. Went in the sky. Maybe. Insomnia last night. Maybe. Out the window. Yeah. I wish you all would have got a couple more, because the finger one, that one's a little bit tricky. I think that's kind of the trickiest of the 4 to understand, but again, I'll share. Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and reveal. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Air drum roll. He's disengaged because he took too many bullets from PowerPoint. Wah, wah, wah. I can't see the eye rolls through the virtual, which is nice. I can see the eye rolls like in person, but like at least in here I can't. Yeah. So yeah, how, again, and I think we've all kind of been there, right? So we've all been feeling that way before. Thank you, Cara. I appreciate it. So what about, let's talk about it. Oh, Maria. Hold that thought, Maria. Maria. I think Maria has actually an eagle eye. I think she caught more than she thinks she did. So yeah, hold that thought. We'll get to it. I'll surprise you all and show the last clues. All right. So, you know, Borson, he doesn't want to be that person. None of us want to be that person, I hope. So let's talk a little bit more about how we can make more engaging activities. So let's talk a little bit about different tools and strategies. So first of all, being super meta here, why don't we start with this presentation? So here are the things missing from this presentation that a lot of times you may see in other presentations. I tried not to use a lot of bullet points. I did like to put those definitions on there because, again, I do think it kind of helps anchor people in the way of thinking. Didn't start with a lot of learning objectives, and I know when I speak, I certainly don't like introduce myself and talk about how glorious I am, because I'm just a person, right? And I try not to do a ton of text, right, except that one with Borson stuff. But instead, what I try to do in this presentation is I'm doing live closed captioning the whole time, right? I'm trying to tell a story. So I'm trying to hook you in with kind of this, you know, detective, and trying to make kind of this analogy between us working with subject matter experts and us needing help from the detective. I tried to do some of the polling, and I really wanted to kind of, again, maybe very poor, but at least I tried to have some suspense and humor throughout, right? Because life's too short to be boring, I think, and you know, you just want to make something a little bit unexpected, because I don't know about you all, but some of my most impactful learning experiences were because of a story, or was because I was really surprised, or something, you know, was just so unexpected I didn't expect it to go that way. And if we know that about ourselves, like, why don't we think about putting that into our learning experiences for the people that we serve, right? So I just challenge, and that's just, you know, something I just wanted to think about. All right, so if you're curious about any of the tools, I have links to all of these in the resource box. So don't have to take any notes. I have links to all of them. So if you're interested in like doing some polling, here are some of the ones that I've used before. The only thing I would call out is I think Top Hat is a little bit more higher education focused, but again, depending on where you are at, that might be a better option for you. I have a saying, if it's free, it's for me. And the one on here that is free is the UMU at the bottom, stands for you, me, and us. And ATD is actually, UMU is a gold sponsor of ATD, so they have a lot of great resources there, and again, it's free. And yes, Poll Everywhere does also have a free version, but it just isn't, you know, again, a lot of these are kind of freemium, right? So that you can kind of start off for free, but then if you want more robust features, you have to pay. But the nice thing about UMU is free, so I highly recommend checking that one out. Has a really neat option on it where you can add people's names and kind of like a giveaway raffle. That's really fun. So they have like these little balloons popping, and then people like sharing for their name to be left up there. There's a lot of cool things you can do on that. And yes, Dr. Lori, I think you can also do polling on Zoom. I know for me, I have trouble with it because I think you have to preload them. And for me, a lot of times, if I'm just, you know, again, wanting to engage an audience, if I'm not getting anything out of people, I'd like to have kind of that flexibility to go on the fly, but maybe it's something they may pick up sooner. Yeah. And Carrie, yeah, Google Forms, Microsoft has really stepped up their game on their forms too. I really like the accessibility part of it. So they have this really nice immersive reader that, you know, you put a form in, and then if you send it out, you can click a play button and it reads it to you, and the voice is really good. So yeah, I'm really impressed with what forms are doing too. Totally have to check it out. It's cool stuff. All right. Some other ones for images, just a little side note, I really struggle personally. I'm not a good graphic artist. That's something I've personally always struggled with. So here are some of my go-to places for image creation. A lot of these, again, are free, and a lot of times you can pull out different vectors. You can do some manipulations with them. So like, for example, my image with like the detective and stuff, it was really, really rudimentary how I did it. So I basically found like this little wood panel thing to make it look like it had depth, and then had just like a purple thing for the wall, and then, you know, so yeah, I struggle with it. Definitely not my strong suit. I fully admit it. But, you know, again, if you're interested in creating your own images, there's some stuff for you. Some other like stock photos, I know that that's always hard. I know where I came from, we definitely had what I call champagne taste on a tap water budget, right? So a lot of times you don't have money to spend on these images and stuff. So these are kind of three of my favorite places to go. And again, another sidebar soapbox is, it is 2020. It's time to get rid of the generic stock art of the same white guy from the 80s with his thumb up with his tie on. Like, that's not what the world looks like anymore. So anytime I can put more diversity and more you know, resources in there that actually looks like the world, I think that's really important as well. So all right, a couple other things real quick before we get to the grand finale that I know you all are waiting for. So if you're interested in thinking about ways to assess your learner engagement, like what are some things that I might want to think about when I'm building these things out, I really kind of like this continuum here. They call it SCORE. Again, I have the link to the full article in the box, but and I'll share the link to the box too. I think I saw somebody say I need the box. I will share with you the box at the end. So you know, what do they need to be successful? How can they be curious? How is it original? And what kind of relationships are they building? So I just think that that's a really nice, succinct way of thinking about, and just a nice little self-check to us too when we're building something. Are we thinking about learner engagement? And I want to give you an example of something that I worked on. This was a couple of years ago. This is what I inherited. So I had to basically build assessment training for subject matter experts. Talk about the driest topic on the block, right? I mean, not super exciting. And I got something like this, and no wonder they didn't like it, because who wants to see like do's and don'ts, right? And specifically, these subject matter experts were teachers in the state of Ohio, and they just really didn't like it at all. So I really wanted to like dive in and get to know my audience a little bit better. So I built out a persona. And so with the persona, I basically talked to a bunch of different ones and kind of like figured out kind of who is my person, like who am I building this for, like who's kind of on the other side of this. And I made this up. So I mean, you know, I made up the name Doris, and talking to these people, these were some of the concerns that the folks had that were taking the learning experience. Specifically, this was technical educators in Ohio. To me, it wasn't fair, because here they are working their butts off, doing great work, but then their teacher effectiveness score was really reliant on how their students did on standardized tests. But yet, most of these people, and even formally trained educators, do not get enough training and assessment. So I thought that there was a really big gap there. And so I thought if I could build something that helps them know how to write better assessments, then it's going to make them better to help better prepare their students for assessments, if that's what they have to do, which that's a whole nother political topic for another day, right? And then again, I just broke it in, brought in some information like what the key performance indicators are of this person. So how's this person actually employed? Like, what are they looking for? So again, I talked a little bit about that, about the enrollment numbers and the scores. And then I just kind of dived in a little bit on their particular goals and where they kind of want to go with their life. And by writing that out and getting feedback on it and really thinking about it, you can really build something a little bit more engaging, and you can really, again, humanize your learning experience. Think about that person on the other end, because a lot of times they get kind of left out of it. All right, and finally, last thing, we're on level up the learner engagement. And I'm cognizant of the time. So do you remember I said that it was really important to pick your person? So really quickly, we're an hour, right, Carrie? We end at 8? Okay, all right. So very briefly, I just want to show you all these. We can maybe just chat about them, and then I want to leave some time for questions as well. So maybe just spend like 2 to 3 minutes on these. But if you want, we can just go through these real quick. So the cunning bonus, basically what these were is I just gave you little scenarios, and if we had more time, I'd like for you to kind of work with your team to kind of talk through how you would make it more engaging. But I'll just show Rufus to begin with here. And can you all see my tab? Let me know. I know sometimes Zoom's a little wonky on that. If you can't see my tab, let me know and I'll reshare. Maybe.
We're good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so if you were with Team Rufus, this was going to be your scenario. So you're a new instructional designer at Boxed In Logistics. The company coordinates drop shipments for Fortune 500 companies, in addition to having an e-commerce component that sells office equipment. You're a month into your new role, and you begin in your first ID project, which is to create safety training for the warehouse workers. When you assess what's been done before, you're horrified. The existing content's a 150-slide PowerPoint presentation with more bullets than Orson Welles has put in a PowerPoint in his lifetime. Ouch. Okay. When you speak to your manager about it, she didn't really seem fazed about it. She questions why you would feel it's necessary to change the form. I'm sorry, Brittany. Brittany says, this is my real life at work right now. I'm so sorry. So using your cunning bonus, so here's where the bonus kicked in, explain how you'd handle the situation with your boss and share at least 2 to 3 ideas that your group would come up with for the safety module. So the cunning piece of it is, not only how would you do it, but how would you explain it to your boss? And that's such a difficult conversation to have, especially if the boss has been there for a while and that's kind of the standard of what good learning experiences look like. So, when I've done this before, a couple of examples that pop up is, maybe doing like a little pilot. So building out something a little bit different, pilot testing it with like a segment of the folks and getting feedback to take the data and like, look, they like this better and here's why they like it better. Data usually talks, but again, real life, right? I'm looking at Brittany here. A lot of times you don't have time to do that. Right? You don't have time to do a pilot. You don't have time to do the different stuff. So it's tricky. And I just wanted to think about and get you all kind of thinking about, what that would look like. And if anybody wants to pipe in here and maybe share a few ideas, I'd love to hear other ideas of what people would do in this situation, because it does happen, right? So Jen says it depends on if the safety numbers are good or right. Good or bad, right? Boss might feel it works if it doesn't need to be fixed. Absolutely. I mean, what if this is a compliance, right? I mean, I feel like compliance gets the worst treatment in the world. I mean, it's just like, oh yeah, we just need you to sign off that you did it, and that's all we care about. So you're absolutely right. I mean, it could definitely depend on that. Dr. Lori says time, money, pushback. Yes, Dr. Lori. That I always call the compliance the CYAs as well. Yeah, and Marina, great. Yeah. Involve the people, right? So you want to talk to the people. You want to see what they're doing. You want to grow. You want to know kind of what they're doing. So again, you do have access to the slide deck too, I think, in the box. So if you want to go through the other ones, feel free. I think this is also like a nice little thing if you have a stand-up meeting with your team. If it's something you want to chat with your team about, I think it's important to have these little check-in calibrations with your team if you're on part of a bigger learning and development team, just to have conversations about it. I know for myself that doesn't happen enough, and if you're intentional and think about it, I think it could maybe move the ticker a little bit, right? All right. And finally, if you want to connect with me, here I am. So again, life's too short to have a boring headshot. So why not have a gif of conference ribbons, since we don't do conferences anymore in person? But love to connect with you. I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn, Karen North 11. I do have a podcast, Instructional Redesign, and there's my email address. And again, all the resources today, there's the link. I just made a Go link with my university because Bitly charges now. Did you all know that? Like I tried to sign up for that before this, and Bitly is charging. So I have a Bitly service through the university with the Go links. So
that's crazy.
I know. I was like, why did you all start charging? But I get it. All right. So I will show the other clues because I know you all are curious. And then if you have any questions, feel free to either put them in the chat, come off mute, whatever. You know, I'm fine with whatever. So the first clue was probably one of the hardest ones to see. So the first clue was there was a power outlet by the detective, right? And if anybody wants me, and actually I can go back here and do this here. So right here was the power outlet. So there was the power outlet there. So power. And then we had a bullet bill. And there's where it was. So the bullet bill was right there. Yeah. I see Carrie. Carrie's like, what? How did I miss that? Okay. And then the third was a moon. So we had the moon right here on this slide. So we had the moon. So we had the power, the bullet, the moon, and the point. So the moon is the sleep, the power outlet, the point, power point, and then the bullet for the bullets. So yeah, so that was cheesy, I know, right?
So creative and thinking outside the box on so many levels.
Yeah. I mean, how boring would it be? How boring would it be to have a presentation about learner engagement and not try to be engaging?
Yeah, good point. I agree. I absolutely loved the mystery aspect of it. This is a really, really good idea, and I'm kind of shook by how great this was.
Thank you.
I have a question in terms of, like, do you use like a format when you're creating the mystery to kind of make it a little bit easier? Because I could see myself doing this in just about anything in any capacity, but is there like a step-by-step thing that you follow? I'm sure you've probably done this so many times that you can probably do it, you know, with your hands behind your back, but yeah,
it's a great question. If you're familiar with any like the scenario kind of writing tools, I'm a big fan of like those big blocks, and I don't know if you, again, female, I've read a lot of those like 17 magazines, Cosmo magazines of like, are you a jerk? And then it's like,
Team people.
Yes, so you got it. So I start with like basically a blank template of that, Chris, and then I start, you know, kind of what's my first decision point, what's my next decision point, where am I going from there? It just helps me kind of visualize it. And I have a big whiteboard behind me. I draw it out on my whiteboard if I'm building it, just again to kind of keep me balanced. But actually, one of the questions I get a lot too that a lot of people don't know about is the linking of the images. So people ask me, you know, how did you get that to pop there? And so one thing you can do, and I use Google Slides because I like the live closed captioning, but you can actually do this in PowerPoint. You can do it, I think, also in Keynote, but you can actually do linking in these presentation software. So all you have to do is just click on the image here, and then you make it a link, and then you can actually link it within your presentation to jump to the slide. So you know, you could do that in, you know, say PowerPoint, you know, Google Slides, whatever, but that's a way, again, to, again, give autonomy and choice. So like, let's say you're going to be talking about 3 different topics in the training. Ask people in the chat, hey, where do you all want to go first? I mean, they're like, what? I get to choose? What's going on here? And then all you do, just click on the image that takes you to that slide and jump back. And then at the end of every section, then have it to where you can jump back and go back to where they want to go.
Yeah, giving them options, adult learning theory. I like it.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for your question, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anything else? Share what tool you're using. Oh yes, I love this. I found this in 2018 and I've tried from here on out to always do captioning in my presentations for multiple reasons. One, when I get excited, I talk fast. Two, I'm originally from the South, so my twang comes out a little every once in a while. But three, it's also the right thing to do. I mean, so Google Slides, super easy, Dorada. You go in Google Slides, you have a little bar right here. Boom, that's it. That's it, 2 clicks. I mean, easy, right? Now, downfall is it doesn't save the captioning. A lot of times it's a continuous run-on sentence, so I can continue talking a million miles a minute. And 3, it always gets my name wrong, so what's it going to call me tonight? Cara North. Oh my gosh, it got me! Of course, it makes a liar out of me when I say that.
Oh boy.
I'm usually
That
Karen
means you're
Horse.
making it.
Yeah. Usually calls me Karen Horse, but yeah, it called me Cara North. Karen, see, it's not perfect, but again,
North
if
Carolina.
people again have other, and I think it's really selfish to think somebody's giving you your undivided attention. I'm sorry, I do. That's not the real world. But if they, you know, had a distraction coming back and they're like, oh, that was a good point, at least they have a trail, right? And so I think that also helps with it too. But yeah, easy peasy, 2 clicks. You can also do it in PowerPoint now. But the thing I don't like about the PowerPoint one is you have to educate your users on it a little bit. So through PowerPoint, it starts with a QR code. They can actually scan it. And the cool thing about PowerPoint that this doesn't do is it translates it, I think, up to 50 different languages. So let's say you have a population of maybe Spanish speakers. They can actually scan it, and then it will translate and bring in the captions on their device as you're talking in their native language, which is really cool. Really cool. And it also saves the transcript as well. So PowerPoint's a little bit ahead of the curve on that. But again, the reason I don't like to do it is because I like to pop right into stuff, and I just don't want to spend 5-10 minutes to try to educate an audience. But if it's something you've done a couple of times, then I think it's a great option.
So cool. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
And check out that time, everybody. 7:59. How amazing is that? Round of applause. Yay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If you guys would not be opposed, can we?
Yeah, let me stop sharing here, Carrie, and then...
Yeah, we can do a quick little picture if you guys are okay with it. I know we already did a few, but if you guys are okay with it, we can do a quick little picture, and then...
Well, maybe. Let's see here. There we
I
go.
have Cara's information. I'm going to throw into the chat really quick in case you don't have that. So you can follow her if you're not already. So you can follow her on social media. So here I go. I'm going to say if you can all smile in 1, 2, 3. All right, I grabbed it. Perfect. It's hilarious when you're doing this and where your eyes always go. Like I'm going and I don't know really where I am, but I can see that I'm looking over here, and then it's like I'm always like like have this funky look on my face. So yeah, let me put that information or her LinkedIn and Twitter in the chat. We have with ATD Suncoast, we have about like 6 different events every month. We have our regular learning event, we have a higher ed gig, a consultancy gig, a learning on tap. Sean's here as well, so he hosts that. Sometimes an LTech SIG where we look at a learning tool, and then next month we're having something else next month, probably on accessibility. I'm not 100% sure yet. So stay tuned on social media. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Cara was amazing. Follow her, and hope to see you guys again at another event. Thank you again for being awesome, Cara and everybody. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye-bye.